Welcome to this episode of the Smart Leaders Sell podcast. I'm Jess, sales coach and leadership expert, and I am really excited to dig down into today's episode. Hey, poddies. We are like the day before April Fool's Day, which is very exciting. I mean, if you're the kind of person who plays tricks on people, then April Fool's Day is going to be like your favorite day of the year, and it is tomorrow. I'm thinking about that and I'm like, are there 30 days in March? Anyone else know that little rhyme? You know, the 30 days has September, April, June, and November. All the rest of 31. There you go. March has 31 days. We're actually 2 days away. I lied. Anyway, today's episode is going to be an interesting one. We're going to dive into some self-sales analysis, which is going to be pretty cool. And I wanted to start out with a couple of things. One is that I've had a few emails recently from very kind people who have let us know that they are struggling with the sound on some of the episodes. Now, I had the lovely Scott. He went and he had a look at this, and all of the sound volume seems to be the same volume that we've always produced it at. But it seems like some of you guys feel like the podcast is a little bit quiet. So if you are having issues with the sound and it's not too much hassle in your day, would you mind dropping us an email to jessica@jessicalorimer.com and letting us know which episode you feel the sound is really quiet on or really loud on, or whatever other problems you're having with it, and what podcast player you are listening through. So whether that's iTunes or Spotify or Podbean or whatever, so that we can go in and check that for you. Because we've checked everything, but we can't seem to find an issue. But some of you are having an issue, and I want to make sure that we don't irritate you guys with crappy sound problems. Okay, so that's element number one. And then element number two is I'm seeing a lot of you guys email me and say we're loving the new corporate direction, but we still feel like we need some assistance with other sales stuff, and you don't have many offers around other sales stuff at the moment. And that is true, I do not. But the things that you can still grab are the sales scripts and objection handling guides. You can still grab List Building Legend, which will help you build a quality email list of subscribers who actually want to purchase from you, and you can use the sales scripts and objection handling guides to actually close those sales calls. We also are running, or I say we, I mean I'll be the one running it, but I'm also running a summer sales intensive this year. That's going to be held in August. So if you want to spend 2 days in person with me in a small group, implementing and actioning sales strategies across your email marketing, across your sales pages, and everything you need for a successful Q4, then hit me up with an email and I will send you all of the details for that. So that'll be 2 days in August. It will be in London at a really nice venue that I use in London for all of my intensives. And if you want to participate, you would be more than welcome. So drop me an email and I can hit you with those deets. And the details for everything else, as always, are in the show notes. So today's episode came about because I was reading through some old emails, and if you don't do this very often, I would remind you that it's a great thing to do. I was reading through some old emails. I have a file in my inbox called Nice Email Responses, and it's what I call my smile file. Right? It's where I keep all of the nice emails that people send me, and when I'm having a good day, I read through them because they often give me other things to think about, or people will often suggest topics for the podcast, or they'll talk about something they've achieved, and that's a really cool way to spend a little bit of my day. And I read them on days that aren't so great, where I am thinking, oh my goodness, maybe I feel a bit overwhelmed. Maybe I'm like, I'm trying to get all this content out and I just can't do it, and business, and I read them and I'm reminded of, the impact that I'm fortunate enough to make in the world. And it's really cool. It's totally self-serving, but I enjoy it. Anyway, I was reading through these emails and I came across one from somebody about 18 months ago that said that they were having a great time listening to the podcast, that they were really enjoying how everything was made so simple. And they said this phrase, which simultaneously broke my heart and made me glad that the podcast was here. And the phrase that they wrote down was, I used to think / I still think that I'm a pretty shoddy salesperson. And that's really hard, isn't it? It's really hard to think about whether or not we're good at something. Sometimes we're naturally skilled. I forget a lot of the time that I enjoy sales. It's something that hasn't always come naturally to me, but that because I enjoy it, it's become a lot easier over time. And perhaps it's become a lot easier, a lot quicker than it would for other people. I look at other things that I'm really not as good at, like running, for example. I'm a terrible runner. Well, I'm not a terrible runner. I can run, but I look at some of my friends who run regularly, and they'll go for like really long runs, and they'll talk to each other, and like they have this great time. They get a runner's high. I run and I look like someone dragged me through a hedge backwards, and the chances of me talking are slim to none. Unless I'm literally yelling for help, I am not speaking because I'm puffing. I'm a very attractive runner. I should have started with that, shouldn't I? But it's one of those things where sometimes we beat ourselves up about not being very good at something, even if we are good at it. And sometimes we don't recognize when perhaps we're not actually doing the right things to give us the best opportunities or chances to be good at something. And what I want to talk about today is, there are many of you out there who might feel like you are shoddy salespeople. There are some of you out there who currently might be. It doesn't mean it can't change. It doesn't mean you can't get better at it. And so what I want to do is make sure by the end of this episode, you're able to identify whether it's actually a problem that you have with sales, or whether it's that you're not necessarily selling yourself in the best way, or whether you're just not focusing on the right activities, or whether you're just a really good salesperson and beating yourself up unnecessarily. All right. So by the end of the episode, hopefully you will have come to one of those conclusions and have a little bit of an action plan to go with it, because it can be quite hard if you're spending most of your time telling yourself how crappy a salesperson you are to try and go out there and make good sales happen. It's kind of like telling yourself that you can't ride a bike and then trying to cycle 300 kilometers. Probably not going to happen because you're not in the right frame of mind, and because you don't really believe that you can do it. So it stops you actually having that impact that you want. So I guess it might be a surprise, but most of us don't think we're good salespeople, even if we are. There are days where I do not feel like the best salesperson in the world. There are probably more days where I don't feel like the best salesperson than days that I do feel like the best salesperson. Okay. And that's not because I'm not good at selling stuff. It's because as humans, we are hugely self-critical. The more self-aware you are, the bigger the problem, I believe. And in all honesty, we live in a world now that our failures are emphasized by the world that we inhabit. The majority of people listening to this podcast operate in the online space. And online marketing is hard. It tells us that we're not allowed to fail. We're not supposed to make mistakes. We're supposed to be good at everything. The highlight reel is there and it should be your reality. But in actual fact, it's really not, and I know that conversations have come up over the last couple of months or really couple of years about mental health in entrepreneurship and, the stresses. Everyone's seen that meme, the one that's got the kind of life of an entrepreneur, and then it's got all the squiggly lines that basically says it's a complete shit show. It's like a little roller coaster, and everyone posts it and they laugh, and I'm just like, oh my God, that is life, and it's horrible. And if you don't laugh, you probably cry. But it does mean that because we're operating in this world where it's not okay to get anything wrong, or everyone else is showing their highlight reel all the time and they're showing all these big things. Sometimes the win of my day is that I get up and I wash my hair before I get on client calls and I don't just rock dry shampoo, right? Sometimes that's my win. Sometimes that might be my only win. I might have a really tough day. I might have clients that have really big questions. I might have, launches that are going on that I'm tearing my hair out about. Last year I went through a really crappy breakup and it was extended and it wasn't my choice, and that was just hideous. So a lot of days I spent being like, oh my God, everyone else's wins on social media are huge. Like, here are all these people celebrating. They've just I don't know, signed another Hay House book deal, and they've gone out and they've single-handedly rescued a family of voles from the water bank, and they are raising them to be like, I don't know, dogs. You know what I mean? Big wins. I'm saying these things and realizing that to me, that's definitely the whole vole thing, definitely a big win in my book. Probably not in other people's, but let's get this clear. You're probably looking at the newsfeed and you're seeing people celebrate big sales months. You're seeing people put out epic client testimonials all the time. You're seeing people live the first class lifestyle. They're going on holiday every day. They're, you know, rocking up in first class on planes, all this kind of thing. And feeling like you're just not getting it right, or something's not clicking for you. And often it comes down to sales as being one of our key problems. When we're not happy in our business, it can be other things. It can be that we're not happy perhaps with the audience size that we've built. It can be that we're not happy with perhaps we've built a successful business and it's feeling kind of stale. But most often when people aren't happy with their businesses, it's because they're not making the sales that they want to make. And that frustrates us naturally. And it's not a bad thing, because it inspires us to, or should inspire and motivate us to do better. But at the same time, it can be a really hard place to stay mentally. And so what we need to understand is whether this is real. Like, is it the reality that we're just not very good at sales and we're going to have to suck it up and accept that and, you know, just do what we can to get by? Or is it that actually we're just focusing on the wrong areas, or we're not playing to our strengths, or, you know, we're maybe not as consistent with sales activities as we'd like to be? And sometimes those things end up actually causing more problems and cause you to lose more revenue than not being very good at selling, but consistently doing a sales activity or consistently showing up and making offers. Yeah. And that's what I want to explore today, is how do we actually know which is which, you know, and do almost like a little self check-in or self performance analysis, where you can check whether you're really a good sales person or whether you just need to up your activity to become one. Because I also don't believe that inherently there are people out there who cannot sell. I just don't believe that. It's not true. You know, we don't say to kids, oh, well, you've fallen over a few times, so you probably should just give up on that whole walking idea. We're like, no, you can walk, go for it. It's a very, very small percentage of people, if any, who really couldn't sell. And to date, I've not met any. So, you know, the chances of it happening are relatively slim. Okay. So when we're looking at our own, and I'm going to call this our own like sales appraisal, if you like. When I was doing these in corporate, I used to do them with my team a lot, and they used to hate them. And I used to love them. I used to love having my appraisal done, because it was a really good opportunity for me to reflect objectively. And sometimes I'd done really well and sometimes I'd sucked. So let's get that off the table. You know, you might do this and you might be afraid to do this exercise because you're thinking, well, what if I didn't do as well as I wanted to do? Or, you know, I don't really want to look at my numbers because things like that make me nervous, or they don't make me feel great. Well, we can't get any better until we actually know where we are. Often, you know, people don't measure their metrics, they don't measure their numbers, they don't dig back into things and debrief because they're worried about feeling negative. But the reality is you can never feel more positive until you know that you have something to build on. Yeah. So the first activity that we need to do is look at our results. And the big question here is, are you hitting your financial target? It's a loaded question, let's face it. You know, if you're not hitting your financial target, you probably don't feel great about it. If you are hitting your financial target, you might be thinking, but I wish that I'd done better. Alternatively, you might be kind of bright side like me. If I've hit something, I'm like, woohoo! Even if I've hit it by like 50 pence, I'm like, I've hit the target. This is good. And, you know, I will challenge myself or stretch myself with the next one, but I'm a celebrator. I'm that kind of glass half full person. And I enjoy making time to celebrate the wins. Equally, if something's not great, then I enjoy taking the opportunity to potentially change that next time and to look at what I could have done differently, or whether or not I could have controlled the situation to get a different result. so the next time it will be better. Yeah. So that's the first question to ask yourself. Are you currently hitting your financial target? Now, this can be a really good indicator of whether you are running the correct sales activities, because obviously in order to make sales, we need two things. We need to be making regular offers that are the right fit for the eyeballs that we put them in front of, right? So we need offers and we need eyes. So hitting your revenue target doesn't always indicate that you're a good salesperson. Particularly, it indicates that you are doing the right sales activities and that you're doing them consistently enough to generate the result that you want. If you're not currently hitting your revenue targets, you get to feel a little bit annoyed about that. You get to feel a little bit sad about that. You don't get to wallow in it, because ultimately change only comes when you make the decision to do something differently. So every extra hour that you spend telling yourself, well, I just can't do it, and well, I'm just not good at it, you're not actually changing anything. You're just moaning to yourself, and that's fine. Like, that's totally fine. It's your prerogative. You can do whatever you like, but ultimately it's not going to help you. Yeah. So make sure that when you're doing this exercise, whether you're getting the answers you want and they're positive, or the answers you want and they're negative, that you don't use this as an opportunity to beat yourself up anymore. This is an opportunity for change. It's your opportunity to make the decision to do something differently, and that should be inspiring and motivational, not a stick to beat yourself with. Yeah. So we look at these results and if we're hitting our financial targets, and then we have to look at, were our financial targets valid? Were they realistic targets? Often people will set themselves these crazy targets in the online space, and I don't even know where they're getting the numbers from. People who've literally never sold anything are like, yeah, I want to have a 10K month and it's my first day in business. Okay, that's probably not going to happen, because you don't have the requisite elements that you need. You know, in order to make 10K in the online space, you need an audience of some kind. So if it's your first day in business and you've got an audience of 2 people, and those 2 people are your mum and your dog, which is what I had when I started, then guess what? Difficult to make 10K, mainly because apparently parents funding you is not a sales strategy. Anyone who's got kids is like, I need to tell my kids that. But seriously, you know, were your targets realistic? How much money have you made before? How many sales did you make this time last year? Are you setting yourself good, better, best goals? You know, I always say to my clients, like, the best thing you can do is to set yourself 3 financial targets. So whether that's yearly, quarterly, weekly, whatever you want to judge it on, you have a good, better, best. So I look at, how did I do the year before? And I set myself a target just above inflation, or the rate of inflation, and that's my good target. And then I'll set myself a better target, and that's usually around 25% higher, and that's the better target. And then I set myself a real stretch. Oh my god, if this happened, I would be, I don't know, shoving £50 notes in the pockets of RSPCA workers goal, and celebrating with champagne and doing all that kind of stuff. And that's my best goal. And that's 50% above target generally. Yeah. So you want to be looking at your targets and whether or not they were actually realistic. Were you ever going to be able to hit this based on your audience size, based on your experience? And if you weren't, then stop beating yourself up. You can't go from a standing start to generating 10K. You're probably not going to go from having a $500 month to a $5,000 month in just 30 days unless something happens to change that. So unless your sales habits drastically changed in line with the problems that you're seeing, or unless you invested in learning and development and changing your sales style accordingly, it's going to be tougher for you. Yeah, it doesn't mean it can't happen. We see it happen quite a lot, but those people have to make a drastic change. They don't just, go from having a $500 month and then do the same thing the next month and go, oh, well, I've suddenly made $5,000 by doing nothing differently. That doesn't happen. Yeah. So let's look at those results. Were they what that you wanted? Were they realistic? And then what we need to look at is, how many sales activities did you actually do per day? Yeah. Now, again, loaded question, because a lot of people will argue endlessly that A sales activity is, oh yeah, but of course rebranding my website was a sales activity. Or, of course rewriting my copy for my about page was a sales activity. Or, of course going on social media and commenting on every single person's post that I've ever seen on Facebook in the last 36 hours, sales activity. They're not. They're really not. A sales activity is defined as an activity that is going to lead immediately or within 2 steps to a sale, right? That's a sales activity. So sending out a newsletter to your email list that says book a call with you, a discovery call with you, that's a sales activity, because within 2 steps you will have been able to make a sale or had the opportunity to make a sale. Sending out an email to your newsletter list and making them an offer is a sales activity. Driving traffic to a specific sales page on your website using social media posts or videos or your podcast is a sales activity. Rewriting copy endlessly, creating Canva graphics, rebranding your website, going and commenting on a bunch of Facebook groups and trying to give value in no promo areas, all not sales activities. But putting clear calls to action on your podcast, putting clear calls to action on your video channel, giving regular value through emails with clear calls to action to buy something or to book discovery calls with you, appearing as a guest expert for another person's training group or membership, appearing on podcast episodes where you can share, like as a guest, where you can share value and back it up with where people can go and buy from you or find you. Those things are all sales activities. Asking your existing clients for recommendations or referrals, asking previous clients how they're getting on and whether they need more assistance or anything else from you. All of those are valid sales activities. So how many did you actually do in that month? Most people, when they look at it, they're lucky if they do 1 sales activity a week. Right? And I might say that, and you might be listening and being like, oh my God, that shocks me. How could they not do more than 1 sales activity a week? But you'd be surprised by how much else we can find to fill our time with. It's really easy to sit in Canva. Believe me, I've done it, badly, obviously, because we all know my design skills are poor, but it's really easy to sit in Canva for 4 hours creating graphics or an Instagram storyboard or a new head banner for your website or whatever. It's really easy to lose that time. And then what we tell ourselves is, well, I don't have time because I've been so busy. Well, unless you're fully booked with clients, and this is a tough love Jess moment, unless you're fully booked with clients, you don't get to tell me that you're so busy with everything else, because everything else should be a sales activity. Otherwise, you're not going to get to that point where you're fully booked with clients. And I don't want that for you. Like, you're listening to this podcast, you're smart enough to know that sales is what's going to keep your business afloat. So equally, we have to do it every single day. So make a list of the 30 or 31 days that you've had in the month and look at what sales activity did I do that day. If you don't have a tracker for this, FYI, I'm going to pimp my Smart Leader Sell Planner. We sell a 90-day sales planner. I'll get the link in the show notes for you. And you can literally, if you've got the planner, you can go back every single day and it tells you on each page of the day what sales activity you should be tracking and things like that. And you can literally just go back through it. So look at how many sales activities you did. Now, we have to factor in weekends. You're not necessarily going to be selling at weekends. So that's 4 days out of the month. Yeah. So 31 minus 4 is 27. That took me a long time in my head. But that's 27 days. So if you don't have 27 sales activities on your list and you didn't hit your financial target, there you go. That's why. And it's that simple. You can't call yourself a bad salesperson if you didn't do a sales activity every day, because you didn't give yourself fair opportunity to actually sell. If you did have 27 sales activities on there and you didn't hit the target you wanted, now you get to look at, okay, well, what worked and what didn't work? Yeah. And it might be that you go, okay, well, I sent out a bunch of sales emails, but my audience didn't buy the offer. Maybe I had the wrong offer. Or you look at it and go, oh, I posted a load of offers out on social media, but maybe I didn't play the algorithm right. Maybe nobody saw it. Or you look at, whether or not the offer was right for your audience, whether you did market research before you put an offer out there so that you could actually understand if it was the right time and that was something that people were going to pay you for. You look at how warm your audience is. If you're putting stuff out on social media, but you just started out on Facebook 2 weeks ago, then it's going to be a colder audience. So could you be talking to a warmer audience every day? Are there people you already know, people who could make introductions for you or referrals? That would be a better use of your time. Yeah. So none of this is about beating yourself up. It's about understanding why the problem occurred so that you can solve it. And I know that this feels like a bit of a tough love / ranty episode. And it sort of is, but my biggest concern for anyone operating the online space at the moment is that they're being told all of these things. We're being given so much information that seems so complex. Like, oh my goodness, if your funnel doesn't work, just throw more money at ad spend at it. Well, why would you do that? If it's not working organically, it's not going to work because you throw 500 quid at it. Like, we're being given information that isn't enabling us to effectively troubleshoot our own problems. And that's what you need to start doing. Rather than blindly investing in something new, you need to look at, well, what is the actual problem I need to solve here? Is the problem that I don't have a big enough audience? If that's your issue and you need to go and grow your audience, and to be fair, you can sell organically. You can make 6 figures with an audience of less than 250 people. And I know that because I did it. I know that because my clients do it. So you don't have to have a huge audience, but you have to have an engaged audience. And if you're having a problem with growing an engaged audience or getting a bigger audience or whatever, go and talk to someone like Janet Murray. She's got a Build Your Audience course and it's great. I know because I took it. Bought it last year when it was in beta mode. And that's another top tip. Always buy from your friends. If they sell good stuff, buy from them because, it's a good thing to do. But if you're having that problem, fix that problem. If you're having a sales problem, if you're like, right, okay, well, I'm making offers, but actually they're not converting, get sales help. Don't sit there and go, oh, well, maybe it'll change. Get the right assistance. If you can identify it yourself, if you can go, right, well, it's because I'm not doing sales activity every day, go and listen to the episode of this podcast where I teach you the daily activities you need to do to sell every day. Buy yourself the planner. It's like £40. You can buy one. You can track all of your sales activities. It gives you examples of sales activities that you can do. You can buy my book for $9.99. Yeah. And you can buy that and it will teach you different activities, how to match your sales personality style. You don't need to buy something necessarily expensive. And if you're happy to flick back through different episodes, there is a ton on this podcast. I mean, what are we now? 270 something episodes. So you are going to be able to find resources that can help you as long as you're okay to identify the problem. And that's the important thing. Yeah. So once we've identified how many sales activities that we've been doing per day and we decide where the problem is, whether it's that we just haven't been selling enough, we haven't been making enough offers, we haven't necessarily quantified the offer or done enough market research to understand if it was a hit, then we have to action and implement. Okay. And that's really, really important. I want to make sure that you actually implement what you need to learn. Yeah. It's not going to work if you listen to this episode and go, yeah, I'm really fired up, I'm going to do that. And then you don't. So make time. I know that time is precious. I know that it's limited. And I know that a lot of you have infinitely busier lives than mine. You've got kids, you've got dogs, you've got school runs to do, you've got PTA meetings, you've got family that need your assistance, you've got elderly parents who need help or partners. I get all of that. But even if you can make an hour a week, just an hour a week, and in that hour, you spend 5 minutes each day or 10 minutes each day just doing one sales activity, you're going to see exponential growth from where you are. The people who are selling you, oh, you can make an overnight difference. It's not true. It isn't true because the amount of hustle they're having to do to get that to happen is huge. But if you're time strapped genuinely, okay, make an hour a week. Everybody can do that. It might not be your ideal choice. Like there's a very big difference between ideal time and, just making time. Your ideal choice might be, I want to sit and watch Holby City every night, which, you know, if Holby City was on every single night, I would be there watching it every day. It might not be that you get to do that every evening, spend an hour or 2 hours or whatever it is binging Netflix, or, you know, it might be that you have to get up a little bit earlier in the morning to do your sales activity first. It might be that you need to learn to batch your content, so you can just once a month batch that content, and then for the rest of the month it's all scheduled. You don't need to worry about it. It might not be ideal, but it will be real and it will get you the results that you're looking for. Let me know if that helps. As always, reviews are much, much appreciated over on iTunes. It really does help us. And like I say, if you do need some extra support with your sales strategy, I am going to be running the Summer Intensive, Summer Sales Intensive. So if you need support and help, then drop me an email, jessica@jessicalorimer.com, and I can send you all of the details for that. I'll see you in the next episode. It's going to be a good one. I'm very, very excited to introduce the amazing Brian Fanzo to the show. It's going to be good. I'll see you there.